Hey, friend, welcome back to the podcast. I feel like I have so much to catch you up on, but let me just start by saying in this episode, I'm going to be sharing just a little bit about what my summer slowdown will entail and just a few little nuggets of knowledge that I have gleaned recently and just want to share with you all. So let's just dive right in. So, in our Facebook group, the Beyond the Booze Christian Sobriety group on Facebook, someone asked about I wish I had the exact wording of the question. Actually, I probably do. Let me pull it up. Okay, so Patsy asked, yeah, moving on after alcohol. No, hold on. She asked, replacing one addiction for another, recognizing it, examples, food, exercise, or busyness. So this was like a topic she wanted to talk about, which was, like recognizing if you're just replacing one addiction for another, which if you're new here, I've talked about this before about how, after I quit drinking, I was still numbing out with like marijuana. And now I'm sober from that as well. But, I think we all, okay, let me keep this about me. I think, yeah, so sometimes I think I numb out with other things, if I'm not careful. So I wanted to talk about this in relation to social media. And, she mentioned other addictions like replacing, alcohol for like maybe food, and that's super common too. Actually, something I learned about that, like if you tend to like overeat to numb out, it actually has the same effect as alcohol because the way it ferments in your belly, it kind of, I guess it has like the alcohol effect of kind of numbing. So it actually it makes me think about how I think I've asked people before, like, on Instagram or something, like kind of like polling people, like, do you struggle with addiction? And, some people saying no, but not recognizing that, yeah, there is such a thing as like food addiction. And not, not to like bash on them, but I think, like if people have different ways of coping and, food can be, you know, just as unhealthy, right? Because it can cause like inflammation in our body, which causes disease. Um, not saying that I don't know. I'm not here trying to like weigh the scales here. I'm just saying that, coping with anything that's not like a healthy coping mechanism is still not the best. Um, Anyways, back on track here. So I guess what I wanted to share is kind of like how I recognized whenever I would start to mindlessly eat as a way to numb out. I started keeping like a food journal, and I would journal about like how I'm feeling, and I would like, you know, take some deep breaths before I would eat something because sometimes I would just like find myself like in the pantry and I'm like, how did I get here? um, and so, anyways, becoming just curious and not condemning was really key for me with keeping like a journal about it and like, being mindful about eating, like thinking about how like I'll make sure I'm chewing like 15 times, making sure I'm not like eating distracted. Like, scrolling your phone while you're eating where you're just like not really paying attention to what you're doing. Um, so anyways, yeah, just some things to help you like slow down while you're eating and stuff like that was helpful for me to get kind of like that in check. But after I got like my mindless snacking kind of in check, I realized that I was like mindlessly scrolling and, I'd go onto my phone for one thing. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, whoa, what was I doing? And I'm sure so many people can relate because that's just like, yeah, the nature of our phones sometimes. So I'm making it a goal this summer to just kind of like lose my phone throughout the day and not have it on me 24/7. And deleting the social media apps off my phone is a big part of that too, just because, um, yeah, it's just distracting. And yeah, so going back to like this summer slowdown, I really wanted to, yeah, like the mindless scrolling, I wanted to stop that, and then I started, there's actually a big story behind like what made me decide to actually take a sabbatical from social media. And it actually started like last Thursday. I'm actually recording this on a Thursday. I'm going to post this on Friday. But so last Thursday, I was like I woke up and I was thinking about um how like I've been struggling with social media, and I'm just like, I just feel like I'm just like wasting so much time on there, and I just keep catching myself mindlessly scrolling. And so I was thinking about that in the morning and about how many boundaries I was trying to create with my phone, like don't get on social media for the first 2 hours of the day, different things, and thinking about how it's kind of like it reminds me, the way I'm like bargaining with it like reminds me of just, addiction in general, right? Like with alcohol, like we try to manage our drinking by our usage, by saying like I'll only have two, or I'll only drink on weekends, or I'll only drink beer, or I'll only do this, like, and just kind of like trying to bargain with it. And that's like what I feel like I've been trying to do with social media. Like I'm like, okay, I'll take it off my phone and I'll only use it on the computer. I'll, set limits. I'll only be on there for like the hour, but then I hit, ignore on the hour cap I keep on myself. Um, so yeah, I was thinking about that, about just like how addictive it is. And it's like set up to be that way, right? It's like set up to be sort of like gambling, they literally created it for you to be on the app, like as long as possible so that they can show you, ads and whatever, and like get you to spend money, Anyways, so yeah, I was thinking about that Thursday morning, and then I like get onto like my podcast, app, and I'm like, okay, like what am I going to listen to this morning? And my podcast coach actually posted a podcast about how to market without social media, because she's a big like anti-social media person. Like she's actually not, she doesn't use Instagram or anything for her business anymore. So yeah, anyways, she had this episode all about marketing without social media, which I was like, huh, that's interesting, that I was literally thinking about this morning, and then I see my coach post about this. And then I got on Facebook, and my other coach, my codependency coach, actually posted about how she was going to be getting off social media. She was like deleting her face. She already deleted her Instagram. She deleted her TikTok. And then like the last thing to go was Facebook. And so she was like letting everybody know, like, I'm getting off Facebook. And I was just like, dang, like it just felt like the second confirmation. I'm one of those people who like, I kind of like, I do believe in signs, like, and I feel like there's signs and like confirmation that like happens through other people. Um, so anyways, like I'm just like, dang, that's like, okay, that's like the second thing. And then the third thing I did, which I thought was kind of interesting, was I actually went through those 4 questions that I shared on the podcast last week, which, by the way, I hope you guys enjoyed that series, the Fit Free Soul lifestyle series. That's like my way of trying to integrate all the wellness tools that I use that support my sober lifestyle. And it's just like my way to want to help you guys, do the same thing, because those little cornerstone habits are like what help me keep this, train in motion and, on the right track, if you will. So anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed that. But yeah, so I used the questions that I had posted on the day one, which was like making a decision. And, so I journaled about like what would be good about, like getting off social media, like what would be bad about getting off social media, what would, what might be bad about not getting off social media, like, and what would that look like in the future, like 10 years from now. And it just, made me think about how much time I waste on social media and like what I could be doing with this time, like these little projects that I have that I want to work on that I just continue to push off because I feel like I don't have the time or focus for it. But really my time and focus is getting taken away on, this stupid app. And I'm not like totally bashing all social media. It's just like Instagram, I kind of have a little bit of a beef with Instagram. On one hand, I actually posted this on my, in our Facebook group for the Beyond the Booze Facebook group. It's like, I love that I get to connect with people like with you, like who listen to this podcast. And I literally feel like I met like my soul sisters through these different communities, and, Instagram and Facebook are ways for me to connect. And I love that. But I hate that it's like, it feels like it just like sucks my focus and, like I don't like that, So anyways, after I like journaled about like all the, pros and cons basically about getting off social media, I also like had like another scripture that popped up when I read Jesus Calling, and it was like, and I like literally actually surrendered, by the way. So I feel like once you make a decision about something, you like surrender the decision to God, right? Like when we're making a decision to like quit drinking, like part of that process is surrender, and it's like a continuous surrender process, But yeah, so I kind of like surrendered it to God and like asked him for, his guidance. And yeah, I came upon that scripture, like you can't serve two masters. You'll either love the one and despise the other, or hate the one and love the other. And he's talking about like God and money. But for me, it really made me think about social media. And so, yeah, I did decide to take a sabbatical from Instagram for the summer. And as far as like my podcast and the, Facebook group, like I don't really have that big of an issue with Facebook, but I also don't want that to become like my crutch. So it is going to stay deleted off my phone. I'll get on Facebook because I do have some things on there. Like I check in with my wellness coach through like our Facebook group. And so he does like some accountability check-ins through there. And so I'll get on to do that, a couple times a week. And I'll get into our Beyond the Booze community a couple times a week as well. I'm just like trying to kind of take the pressure off myself to show up everywhere because I am a human and I'm not a machine. So I've been feeling like this call to like rest and just to like create a lot of space. And I do feel like that is like what God's calling me to do. And so I know if he's calling me to do it, there's a reason, I almost forgot to share this other thing, but so there's like a reason. And I think that, having less distractions is really going to help me hear what he wants me to do next and to, just rest in his presence and be restored and renewed, because I've mentioned, in previous episodes that it's just been like a hard year. And I know everybody's having a hard year. That's just part of life, right? But there's also, like when you're in recovery and when you're healing, like you really have to honor yourself and like your needs. And, I want to, you know, demonstrate that, as someone, as a leader. I want to demonstrate that it's okay to rest, and yeah, like that's totally okay. It's like it actually made me think about that. There's a passage in Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, and it's like all about, let me see, I'm going to pull it up because it's always good to hear God's word, isn't it? Let me see. Here we go. A time for everything. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. That's so good. So I definitely implore you and encourage you to look over this passage and maybe see where you're at. Are you in a season where you need to, tear some things down or like mend some things, or a time to be silent and, be still and to, listen. And I kind of feel like that's where I'm at. When I read that, that really stood out to me. A time to be silent and a time to speak. So I think that's, yeah, I mean, the things I've been hearing from God is like to rest and to be still. And yeah, I want to honor that, honor that, what God's calling me to do, and like be obedient, because I know that there's going to be, it's a fruitful thing, to rest, like it's just like a cycle of life. It's like a season of life. Like we're not meant to be robots. So anyways, really what that just means is I'm not going to be like, podcasting every single week, unless God has something he wants me to share, then I totally will. I'm just not going to like force it, so I'm just kind of slowing down with the podcasting. I'm slowing down with my posting in the Facebook group. I still want to be in there because I still know that I will want to interact, and I'll want to, connect with you all. And even like, I feel like, one of the things I've realized about myself is I do really love to connect. And that's why, social media is so alluring, because, it gives you this promise of connection. But, it's like really kind of becoming almost like an artificial connection. Like, I don't even know like what this AI stuff is all about. Like, am I really going to be connecting with people, or am I going to be connecting with artificial intelligence, even with like the Facebook groups, like it has the option for me to like create welcome posts that are like automated. And I'm sure for like big groups, maybe that's like what's best, but I like to acknowledge like personally and, search out the gift that I want to post and like, welcome the new members to the group. And I like to do that personally because it just kind of makes me feel more connected, like rather than just having something on auto, artificial intelligence writing you a welcome post and not truly being from me. But anyways, I think, yeah, the last thing I wanted to share is I went through a pretty traumatic event this past weekend. My son turned 2, and it was actually, there was like a close call. He could have drowned, and you know, this is kind of like what also kind of really pushed me to get off social media. So, um, he was outside, and someone was out there with him. But I was like looking at social media, and I was looking on someone else's phone. But so I got up to go outside, and looking for my son, and then I see him like submerged in our pool, and like immediately like ran in, and I like pulled him out, and thank God I don't think he was in there very long, because um he just cried. He didn't like throw up water. He wasn't like not able to breathe or anything like that. Like I think it happened really fast. Um, but I'm like, man, had I really been sucked into social media, like I wouldn't have went out there at the right time. Like, um, and yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layers to it. And I'm like, it really was traumatic, like I could hardly sleep the next night. Like I kept having flashbacks about it. And then, thank God I have like a pretty good support system. So I've been able to, like process and like learn what I should do to help me process and get out of this like um, stress response, and like integrate and figure out how to, keep him safe, and just to, yeah, integrate this experience, and, not get stuck in like the trauma. Um, so anyways, that's just like another reason to slow down, is just to like process. I'm going to have to start taking him to swim lessons. He's also like not in daycare anymore. So there's just like a lot of things that, you know, there's just a lot of things. So I hope that if anything, this podcast like gave you permission to take rest if you need rest, to analyze, where you're at right now, and like if you feel like there's something that needs to change. And I hope it empowers you to make that change. But yeah, I have one more thing I want to share. This is like totally off topic, but I was thinking about something that I learned recently, and it was something my coach taught me, and he was like talking about how like people stay consistent with exercise, right? Um, and one of the things was like if you are able to like focus on the feeling after you exercise, and like how you feel, like those positive emotions, like you're more likely to want to repeat the behavior. And I thought about that like as it would apply to like sobriety. So, this is a sobriety podcast, obviously. And I thought it would be interesting. I like to like make things kind of integrate and apply to each other. So, if we can do that with exercise, right? Like we can be motivated to exercise or do something because we remember how it makes us feel. Like the other day, I did like 5 minutes of like rescue breathing. And I remember afterwards, I felt so much more present, and like just super present. I felt like really calm and present. And so that like memory of how I felt after doing that, like that's going to make me want to do it again whenever I want to get really present. But I also thought about how it would apply with sobriety, right? Like one of the things that keeps me from drinking or from smoking is like remembering like what would happen after, like the negative things. And like that's what I think about now whenever I think about like smoking or drinking. Like I think about like the negative things. instead of the positive, because like that's like what makes something alluring, like when you think about like, oh, it's going to make me feel better, but then you forget about the what happens really after that. Like you feel way worse, you feel so guilty, you feel so shameful. And so like I feel like that's such a good way to like apply that tip to sobriety, is like remembering the negative part, because more than you remember the positive, because the positive is so short-lived. It's just like a quick spike of dopamine, and then you're back down to feeling like poo-poo. But actually, okay, last thing. The other thing I was thinking about is like with social media, like I started feeling like anxious every time I would get on Instagram. Like I would kind of feel this anxious energy. And it made me think about whenever I was like getting ready to quit alcohol. Like I started feeling like this anxious energy every time I would drink. And I think it was because like in my mind, I knew that I needed to stop, but I continued to do it. So like there was like this cognitive dissonance, this incongruency with like my beliefs and my actions. Like they were not aligned. And so that incongruency would make me feel anxious, and I don't know. I don't know if that's why I feel anxious about social media, but it just has started to make me feel anxious sometimes when I get on there. So I know that it is time for a break from Instagram. And the reason I'm not like deleting it totally is because, I do think that there's ways that I can glorify God on social media, and I feel like I do that. But I also feel like, there's times that I'm just trying to glorify myself and I'm not trying to glorify God. And so, like whatever you do, like do it to the glory of God, right? Like whether you eat or whether you drink, do it to the glory of God. And, I couldn't drink and glorify God. I couldn't smoke and glorify God. I could possibly be on social media and glorify God, but at this moment, I know that, he's calling me to take a break. So that's kind of where I'm at. But anyways, I hope you guys have a great summer, and I will catch you on the next episode. Bye for now.